Yep. Inside, I want to kill myself. We are on an 0-7 run over the last 2 days. After tonight was just complete bullshit. So that's how I'm going to start off this show. Horrible Sunday, 1-5. I don't even know what to tell you about that. I just don't want to do this anymore. I have never seen anything like this, man. With the slump continuing, 2 straight losses, not a good day at all. 0-4. I just have not had a good season, man. What kind of slump that I'm on? The slump continues. I've reached a new peak, actually. I'm going to burn my Bruins hat, man. I don't know what is going on with the Bruins. March 8th, is that what it is? I don't even know. It's March 9th, I think. Who even knows, man? I don't know what day it is anymore. I don't even know what day it is anymore, man. Back with you after the worst day that I could possibly have. Back with you, as I always am. Until I die, at least. 0-2 yesterday, and yesterday did not go well for me. 0-5. The worst month that I've ever had in my 18 years doing this. I don't know what to even tell you about this anymore. Broke the slump yesterday as the slump discontinues. The slump continues. Somebody fucking kill me, please. I don't even know what I should do at this point other than potentially end it all. What's up, everybody? It's Toad back with you. This is Bettor Off Dead. This is the NFL edition for Week 5. We finally had a losing day. I'm not happy about it. It was 2-3. Could have been better. It could have been worse. One of the plays kind of irritated me because I think it should have been a win based on the statistics of it, but it was a loss. Maybe I should go over it tomorrow on the Daily Show. I'll rant about it because tomorrow's video is going to be short. It's just going to be, I think WNBA is back in action, and it will be Major League Baseball. But tonight's the NFL show, obviously. But we went 2-3 today, like I said. So, I mean, I'm not disgusted by it, but it could have been better for sure. Nate, what's up? Thanks for hanging out. Hingle McTotalberry. That almost sounds like Dingleberry. You know, when you get the... Dude, does a Dingleberry, like, is it always, like, balls of toilet paper that get stuck in your ass hair? Or is it just... Or is, like... little, like, pieces of turd stuck in your ass hair. Is that a dingleberry, too? I'm not really sure. I don't know what the technical definition is of that. This is a hell of a way to start off the show. Thanks, Nate. Charles, what's up, man? Thanks for hanging out. The Yankees lost. That's true. Yeah, I mean, we're not out of the weeds yet, man. We need Toronto to keep doing what they're doing. I'm worried about what they got going on tomorrow to some extent. UNLV won. I mean, I noticed that the game was being played in the snow. I obviously didn't like that play, but that's, yeah, I mean, I might have been wrong about that one too. It's only turds. I thought it was, I think it could be toilet paper too, but maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I'm asking you. The talking bass, what are we talking about? Billy the talking bass in the WNBA? Is that what we're talking about? I just remember those old commercials back in the day. The "Give me back that fillet of fish, give me that fish." We need to bring back the old McDonald's commercials, man. Let's get into the NFL, dude. You're gonna hate me so much with these NFL plays here. Proud White Christian, man. He's getting into the degenerate talk with us, the degenerate hours. You wipe it till it bleeds. I believe that's a Slipknot song, I'm pretty sure. Or maybe it's Cannibal Corpse. All right, let's get into the NFL, man. Again, you're going to hate me. I got 2 plays here, and it's going to be bad. I'm not sure what we're talking about. The WNBA, dude, I handicap the WNBA, and I absolutely never watch it. So I don't even know what we're even talking about. I just know there are green dildos being thrown. Well, hopefully they start happening again. NFL, it's going to be a little bit of a short week here because we do have 4 teams on bye. As we can see here, Atlanta, Chicago, Green Bay, Pittsburgh all on bye, so they're all not playing. Something to keep in mind next week that those teams will be coming out of byes, and we'll have the bye scheduling dynamics, the bisexual scheduling dynamics coming into play there. And we do have a stupid morning game again, so we got to wake up. If we want to actually watch that game, we got to wake up. If you're on the Pacific Coast, that really sucks because it's going to be at 6:30 a.m. It's at 9:30 a.m. For us East Coast people. It is Minnesota at Cleveland, and this game is in London this time at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which I think the London games like move like different venues. I think some of them are in Wembley, and then this one is in this stadium. I think this stadium hosted at least one game last year. I don't remember if it was the game that Minnesota was involved in last year, but I do think Minnesota, they have an edge in this game, man, because they're already in the same time zone, I think, or maybe one time zone over, because as you remember, Minnesota played in Dublin last week and they lost to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I gave out the Steelers as a lean on my show in that one. I was close final, but Pittsburgh did kind of have the upper hand for most of that game. With Gainwell, by the way, on my bench because I didn't wake up in time to realize that he was going to get the starting nod with Jalen Waddle injured for the Steelers. Minnesota did outgain the Steelers, though, 372 to 313, and they were -2 in turnovers. So, again, Pittsburgh basically pulling a Mike Tomlin and winning a game that they got outstatted in. So that's something to keep in mind. Minnesota actually played better in that game than it looks on the scoreboard. They're staying out in this area. At least they're just traveling from Dublin to London here. So they do have an advantage for that reason because Cleveland's having to travel out there. And Minnesota is used to this already because they did it last year, too. They played in London. Like I said, I don't remember if it was this stadium or not, but they beat the Jets, and I think I lost money on that game on the Jets. Aaron Rodgers threw crucial interception at the end of that game when the Jets had a chance to get within the number there, I believe. So, yeah, Minnesota should have the edge because they're used to this type of travel spot. They're already acclimated to the time zone, and Cleveland is not. So I do think this is a disadvantage for Cleveland. I think Minnesota has the better coaching here, too, that can kind of help overcome that hurdle with Kevin O'Connell against who's Cleveland's coach again? Stefanski? Is that? I don't even remember what the hell his name is, but I think he sucks as far as a quarterback. Like the way that he determines what quarterback is going to be starting. And I think Cleveland is actually getting Dylan Gabriel into the mix now, man. I think he might actually be starting this game for Cleveland. So in a way, you could say that's going to shake things up for Cleveland, and Minnesota's not going to know how to defend against it. Just like I said with Jackson Dart last week, although we'll talk about Dart in a minute. So I do think it's somewhat of an advantage for Cleveland in that respect, just because Minnesota won't exactly know what to game plan for if Cleveland is indeed going with Dylan Gabriel instead of Joe Flacco. I mean, he at least kind of adds another dimension where I'm assuming he's a bit more mobile than Joe Flacco, because Flacco is a statue and an old white guy out there. But I believe they are going to be starting him. We can just check on the depth chart real quick, but I do believe that is the case. Yeah, Dylan Gabriel is the starter now, so I believe it's going to be his first actual start. I believe he's gotten into some games already, but this will be his first start. On the other hand, the nerves might get to him a little bit, though. I'm going to slightly lean to the Vikings overall in this one, though. I think they were better than they looked last week, although Cleveland you could argue that for Cleveland as well, even though they got blown out on the scoreboard by the Lions last week. Statistically, this game was actually closer as well, with Cleveland only getting outgained by fewer than 30 yards there in that one. So it was not really a blowout statistically. So both teams are actually kind of better than they look. These are both good defenses, by the way, and questionable offenses, because I think Minnesota is still going with Carson Wentz as their starting quarterback. I believe J.J. McCarthy is still hurt. I think Wentz might be better than McCarthy here, but who knows what you're going to get out of Wentz at this point. This is going to be Wentz's third game now, and one of the reasons why I leaned against Minnesota last week was because you get the spark that first game with the injured player, like I talk about the injured player theory. That was 2 games ago for Minnesota when they blew out Cincinnati. Last week, I think the spark kind of fades a little bit if you do really well with that quarterback that first time. So they didn't do as well last time out. And it's going to be Wentz again here. But again, Wentz is an experienced quarterback, so he might have an edge there. But again, as I was about to say, I'll lean to Minnesota anyway here, even though there are a lot of factors going on in this game. I just think what puts them over the top here for me is the fact that they're already acclimated to the region, basically the time zone. They're used to making this trip, whereas Cleveland is not. So I do think that's a big edge. And we've seen that in the past. I know Jacksonville has played back-to-back games in London, I think 2 years in a row. And I know the first year we got a win with Jacksonville. I gave it out on the show in their second game in London. It was like a huge advantage. I think it was against the Bills. I don't remember if I think they did the same thing last year, but I don't remember if they actually won that second game or not last year. But it is still an edge to the Vikings. The Vikings have 60% of tickets, 66% of cash on them after dropping from 4.5 to 3.5 here. So it looks to me like even though the public is fading the Browns as they usually do, I think the actual money is kind of coming in on the Vikings side as well. I think it could be a situation where maybe there are professionals that disagree, but I think because the line is kind of dropping towards a more palatable number on the Vikings, I think you're starting to see the professional money come in on them, and I won't disagree with it, but it's yeah, I mean, it's certainly not going to be one that I'm going to recommend to play on. I might not ever play any of these London, Dublin, Berlin games anymore just because they're so, like, unpredictable. You're rage baiting your dad about Bad Bunny. Yeah, Bad Bunny. Like, that's the whole point of having Bad Bunny be the halftime show headliner here is that, like, it's a signal, kind of like what they did, I think, with Kendrick Lamar already. It's the NFL, it's the corporate overlords, whatever. I don't want to get this channel nuked here, but they're signaling to you that we're in charge here, and we're gonna like give you this like demonic energy, basically here in this halftime show. Like that's basically what's going on there. Some guy was looking at him during the Cowboys game. Did that really happen? I don't know, man. I mean, I would not disagree. I mean, I'm not going to like not believe it, I should say. Yes, I'm an expert on women, obviously. The bisexual dynamics, that is the WNBA. Maybe it's more the lesbian dynamics there. Gainwell was on your bench. I did have Woody Marks in my starting lineup, though, with Jonathan Taylor. And Taylor, obviously, was a guy I was not going to take out of my lineup. And he got screwed out of a huge touchdown on that holding call, which also screwed our Colts play last week, which was our one loss last week. Pete Wentz, I think he's his brother, actually. Carson and Pete. Yeah, I don't even remember Usher, to be honest. But it does sound like it was probably Ye. NFL, by the way, we're on a nice run here. We're 6-1 over the last couple of weeks, I think. So I don't want to boast about it and jinx myself here because I kind of did that with college because in college football, I was like, we're 8-2, baby, over the last 2 weeks. And then we went 1-3 today. Although Louisville should have won, and I'll rant about that tomorrow. All right, so that was Vikings-Browns. Let's get into the main afternoon slate here. I don't want this video to go too long here. Speaking of the Indianapolis Colts, my favorite team, despite being a Bostonian, I was a Peyton Manning fan, baby. I hated Bill Belichick. The Indianapolis Colts took their first loss last week. They're hosting the Raiders this time. Indianapolis, they lost the game, as we know. Unfortunately, they had the lead for a lot of that game against the Rams. The Rams did outgain them, but we know Indianapolis pretty much lost that game on bullshit, man. They had, I don't even remember the guy's name. I don't even want to remember his name. The receiver that fumbled the football into the end zone when he was about to get in for a touchdown, a huge touchdown in the game. It would have probably won the game for the Colts if they'd gotten that touchdown. The touchback rule needs to change. You should maintain possession, and it should just set you back to like the 20 or whatever. I mean, it's just such bullshit that you completely lose possession of it based on like an inch near the goal line. I mean, obviously, it was going to be a touchdown. The defense gave up a touchdown on that play. It's just such bullshit. Then that same player got called for the ghost holding call on the Taylor touchdown that I talked about. Also complete bullshit, and that would have put Indy back up by a touchdown with a couple of minutes left in the game. So that looked like it was going to be the game-winning score for them, or at least pretty much give us the cover in the game. That got called back. The holding call wasn't even correct. And then the very next play, the first play, you're thinking, well, the Rams only have like less than 2 minutes left. They're just going to go for a field goal to win the game. We're still going to cover on the plus 3.5. No problem here. But what happens? The Colts don't field a full defense. They only fielded 10 men on the field, and the Rams had a wide open Tutu Atwell, who, by the way, hasn't done anything this year, for like an 88-yard touchdown score just because Indy was missing a defensive player on the field. Absolutely ridiculous. Seems like it was rigged. I don't want to rant on it too much, but total bullshit there. Daniel Jones for MVP. Highly doubt that that's going to happen. But this is a situation where I talk about this. When you lose, you get your first loss like somewhat deep into the season like the Colts did. Sometimes that will hang you over a little bit into the next game. That was kind of a brutal way to lose that game. So I don't love the Colts in this spot. And they also looked a little bit better than they were statistically in that game, whereas the Raiders, even though I know the Colts are undefeated at home this year, The Raiders haven't looked good. They've lost 3 games in a row, but they should have won the game last week against the Bears, man. The Bears against the Raiders. If you look at what happened in this game, I mean, I told you I thought the Raiders were almost a play for me last week. I thought the Raiders were the right side in this game. They outgained the Bears 357 to 271 in this game. Why did they lose? Oh, yeah, because they had 4 turnovers, 4-1, -3 in turnovers. Geno Smith can't hold on to the ball, and that's why the Raiders lost. And they still were going to win the game. I think they had a game-winning field goal blocked at the end of the game. I think the Raiders were winning until a late score by the Bears, and then the Raiders still had the chance to win the game at the end, and they had a field goal blocked at the end and lost the game at the very end after the Bears scored a touchdown really late as well to take the lead after they were losing basically the whole game. Raiders should have won the game. The Raiders, they're still better than they have looked, I think, so far, man. I mean, they're still trying to adapt to that Pete Carroll system. Geno Smith at least knows Pete Carroll, knows his system. I think the Raiders they're not good, but they're not as bad as they look. I would lean to the Raiders in this game. It's not a play, obviously. 83% of tickets, 87% of the cash on the Colts for now. Colts did move up from 6 to 7. It's kind of through the 7 now, so it is kind of a key move there, through a key number 7, through the touchdown there. But even though that looks like somewhat of a legitimate move because it did go through a key number, maybe there is some professional money on the Colts. I think that because it's going to get to the 7.5 most likely, I think you're going to start seeing money come in on the Raiders at that point, which either means you're going to have professionals disagreeing on the game, or the real move was actually to try to get that line through the key number to get the real move on the Raiders. I think it's one of the two. I would lean to the Raiders plus the points in that game. A lot of inexperienced refs, yeah, or the female umpire in baseball there. Yeah, so I know, man. All right, next up we got, what do we have next here? The Giants and the Saints. I'm going to give out a play on this game. I'm going to give out a play on both of these games, and Dallas and the Jets. You're going to love these plays, baby. You know what the plays are. These are going to be my 2 plays tomorrow, and I may have a Monday night play, but I'm not going to give it out yet on the show. We're going to talk about it on the Monday morning show, and I may give out a play on the Monday night game this week. I think it'll be my second Monday night play that I've given out, but the first one I gave out on Sunday, so maybe I jinxed it, or on late Saturday night, early Sunday morning on this show, which was the Raiders, by the way, against the Chargers. So maybe I jinxed it. Maybe I should wait. Denver at Philadelphia. Still in the 1 p.m. slate here. Philadelphia is 4-0, but I still don't think Philadelphia is quite as good as they look right now. One thing that's really glaring about last week's game against Tampa Bay is, yeah, Philadelphia had a big lead in that game. They wound up almost blowing the game. They were winning that game, I think, 31 to, I don't even know what it was, like 31 to 13 maybe at one point in this game, was it? It was, 31 to 13 in the third quarter with not much time left in the third quarter. And then Tampa made this huge run at the end of the game, and they were almost able to win the game. They had a chance to maybe try to win the game. They were down 8 with 12 minutes left, and then all they got in the remainder of the game was a safety. But the glaring thing is that Jalen Hurts didn't complete a pass in the entire second half of this game. He was 0 for 8 passing in the second half of this game. There's something a little bit wrong right now with the Eagles, man. I know they won the Super Bowl last year. Something's not quite right here. Saquon Barkley had just a ridiculous season last year, so you knew he had to regress a little bit, and that is happening. He hasn't been that good. Philadelphia's offense hasn't really coalesced. I think they have kind of some beat-up receivers on the team right now. There's definitely something going on where they're not really coalescing, even though I know they haven't lost a game yet, but they've had some close calls. It hasn't been easy. Like, it seems like maybe a little bit of a Super Bowl hangover here. They probably should have lost that game to the Rams for sure. They were losing that game 26-7, and then they blocked what was a game-winning field goal attempt for the Rams at the end, and returned it for a touchdown, which is a total bullshit cover for Philadelphia. Luckily, I didn't give out the Rams as a play, but I was really close to giving it out as a play. So, yeah, I don't think Philadelphia is quite as good as it seems like they are right now, man. And the odds makers are kind of telling you that in this game because this line looks pretty strange, which we'll look at in a second here. Philadelphia does also have to turn around and play a divisional game against the Giants on Thursday. So that Thursday look ahead is a little bit of a look ahead spot, man, like more than like a normal look ahead spot sometimes, because you have to turn around and play like right away. I don't know if the Giants will really be a cause for a look ahead, because we know the Giants have not been playing well, but it is still a divisional game. So just something to consider there, that maybe Philadelphia will be looking ahead to that. They're something not quite right with Philadelphia right now. They are coming off really 4 big wins in a row, man, against a divisional opponent in Dallas, the Super Bowl rematch at Kansas City, the Rams, which was the playoff rematch, and the Rams look like they are potentially a playoff team again this year, and then Tampa Bay, who may very well be a playoff team again this year. So Philly, I mean, it does mean they've been tested, though. They faced a difficult schedule so far, but after that run of games like that, and now they're facing an AFC opponent, I don't know how focused Philadelphia is really going to be here, or how good they really are. Denver, I think, is maybe a little bit better than they look right now. Their defense is certainly good. They did look good on Monday night, though, but they beat up a hapless Bengals team that really has not been any good without Joe Burrow in there. This Bengals team looking like they're headed for another year without making the playoffs as it stands right now. I mean, that was bad. It was not misleading on the scoreboard either. The scoreboard was not misleading in that game. Denver, everybody saw it on Monday night. Denver outgained Cincinnati like 500 yards to less than 200. I mean, it was a Monday night massacre in that game, so nothing misleading about that final score there. Denver looked good, but everybody saw it, so maybe Denver looks a little bit too good right now, but the public is still going to come in on the Eagles in this game because they're 4-0. They're the Super Bowl champs. Denver's 2-2. Public's going to see that and maybe not put as much weight into Denver here. I know it is a road game. It's a difficult spot having to go to these environments that you're not familiar with, so that might kind of affect Bo Nix a little bit, because I don't think he's ever played at Lincoln Financial before in Philadelphia, so he might potentially struggle a little bit just because of the environment there, but I'm going to lean to the Broncos plus the points in this one. The line actually dropped from 5.5 to 4, and I think that move was kind of immediate. Like, it was pretty quick, and I know I don't have the look-ahead lines up right now. I apologize again, but I think the opening number in this case, as we've seen throughout the past weeks, the opening number that you see here a lot of times was what the look-ahead was. So, like, you want to try to gauge, like, what was the reaction? Like, was there an overreaction from week to week? But I think you're basically looking at the look-ahead numbers here anyway. So, because I don't think 5.5 was out there this entire week. I saw like 4 and 3.5 on the Eagles. The Eagles do have 62% of tickets, 68% of the cash on them, as it stands right now. But it looks fishy to me, man, because it's like, well, if the Eagles are the better team, plus they probably get about 3 for home field, maybe 2 to 3. I mean, NFL doesn't get that much home field anymore. Probably about 2, maybe 3. But the Eagles probably have a little bit better for home field than a lot of teams do. But that line, it's almost making it. The odds makers are basically telling you the Broncos are almost as good as the Eagles. So it just looks a little bit suspicious with that line there. Like, it looks so short. It looks almost too easy to take the 4-0 Eagles there. So, or lay the points, I mean. So I would take the points with the Broncos in that game if I was going to play it. It is not sunny in Philadelphia. It very well might not be after tomorrow, man. Next up, we do have Miami and Carolina. Oh, this is a good one. Miami and Carolina, baby. Miami's coming off winning on Monday night against the Jets. They got their first win, and sometimes when you get your first win, it's like you get that monkey off your back. You can kind of breathe a sigh of relief and play better, but I'm not sure that's going to be the case here for Miami, man, because they did play 2 primetime games in a row. They played Thursday night at Buffalo, and they played decently in that game and covered the spread against a good Buffalo team in a pretty tough environment to play, and they turned around, won on Monday night, 2 divisional games, and now they have to go on the road, unfamiliar territory, to Carolina before they play another conference game against the Chargers, who are looking pretty good so far next week. So I really don't like the spot for Miami. And I talk about how the out-of-conference road games are the most difficult because you might be a little bit less focused, for one thing, because it means the least on your schedule because it affects the tiebreakers less than all the other games. But also it's a venue that you don't typically play in. So I don't love it, man. People saw Miami look good on Monday night finally, although I don't know if they're going to put that much weight into beating the Jets. But still, they finally won a game. People saw it, but if you look at the box score in this game, the Jets outgained Miami by over 100 yards, and the Jets were -3 in turnovers. So the Jets have been jetting, man. I mean, that's what they've been doing. outgained their opponents significantly in, I believe, 2 of their 4 games and lost both games, including this one. So Miami wasn't really as good as it looked on the scoreboard, man. Could have lost that game. I know I leaned to Miami in the game, so I was correct about the outcome, but Miami got outplayed in the game, man. So that's a concern. Whereas Carolina, I mean, they're not a good team either. They're 1-3, so it's not like the public is going to be rushing to the window to play Carolina here. They might actually prefer Miami in this game after what they saw, because public reacts to what they saw last. And what did they see last? Miami won a game, and Carolina got absolutely destroyed by New England. And I gave out New England as one of my plays last week. I'm not going to say we got lucky. It was the right side, but the final score was misleading when you dig into the box score. Like, New England probably shouldn't have won that easily in the game. But Carolina was coming off a 30-0 blowout of Atlanta that was completely misleading. So that's what I talked about last week. Carolina actually got outgained by Atlanta in that game and yet won 30-0. So I said you had a misleading result there. Carolina didn't play as well as the score looked in that game. New England actually played better than it looked on the scoreboard against Pittsburgh, and they just had a ton of turnovers in the game. Very crucial turnovers, too, like all of them in Pittsburgh territory for the most part, too. So I thought it set up really nicely for New England last week. But you look into that box score, man, I know New England blew them out 42-13, but the statistics don't really bear that out, as Carolina actually outgained New England in the game. They out-first down them, and they out-possessed them by almost 11 minutes, and they didn't have any turnovers, and neither did New England. So how the fuck was this score 42-13? I mean, it must have just been kind of a field position game where New England won the field position battle significantly, because I don't see how, with this box score, I don't see how the score could have been that. It doesn't make any sense. So Carolina might actually be maybe a little bit better than they looked last week, and Miami looked better than they actually were last week. And Miami's on a short week, remember, because they played on Monday, going to this unfamiliar venue. So I will lean to Carolina in this game. It's not a play for me, but yeah, the lean would be Carolina here. Miami is public, 69% of tickets, although they do have 76% of the cash on them. And they did flip from a 1.5-point dog to a 1-point favorite here, but it almost, in a way, just kind of looks too easy to play the Dolphins. I mean, the Dolphins, it's still Tua, and those guys. I know Tyreek Hill is gone. He had a really grotesque leg injury, and it might end his career, to be honest. But Tyreek Hill, I mean, he beats women, he beats children. I mean, I'm not crying for Tyreek Hill. Let's just put it that way. The Dolphins, yeah, I mean, it'll be a little bit of a setback for their offense for sure. And I don't think it really gets factored into the line that much. I mean, losing your star wide receiver doesn't really impact the line, and it shouldn't. But, yeah, I mean, the public is still going to be on the Dolphins just because it is Tua, it is Achane, Waddle. I think all those guys are still there. So they're still seen as the better offense than the Carolina Panthers, who just can't really do anything. This is also a battle of two bad defenses, yet the money is coming in on the under, down from 46.5 to 44 on the total. Pretty significant move, just noticing this. 68% of tickets on the over and 76% of the cash on the under. So the money is coming in on the under for what it's worth. But the Dolphins did flip from a 1.5-point dog to a 1-point favorite here, but the public is on it, man. It almost, in a way, because it's just a pick the winner situation there, it almost looks too tempting to play the Dolphins after what we saw last week. So Carolina will be the lean in that game. Most NFL players are felons. Maybe. I don't know about most, but there are a significant amount of them, yeah. Houston at Baltimore to finish the 1 p.m. slate here. I'm going by the schedule this time. I know I forgot. Usually I go by the board, but I'm going by the schedule here, but hopefully that's all right. Either way, we're going to hit every game anyway because we always do it. Justin, brother is a nurse practitioner. What is he? He's a male nurse, like Gaylord Fokker in Meet the Parents. Wait. Your name is Gaylord? Your name is Gaylord Fokker. He does orthopedics. He thinks it's a dislocated knee for Hill and that Hill will return. Interesting. All right, we'll see what happens with that. It's more notable for fantasy purposes. You're going to bet 5 on Carolina because they're your home team. I mean, I agree with that side. It's not one of my strongest leans, but yeah, I mean, I won't tell you not to do it. Houston at Baltimore, this is a very, very strange one. Obviously, obviously there's something going on here because you see Houston was going to be a 9.5-point underdog, and now they're a 1-point favorite. I think they were actually 2.5 at one point, and the number actually dropped down to 1. The money is coming in on the Ravens. I mean, the public, just because it is Texans-Ravens, the public probably just sees that matchup and still goes, oh, I'm going to take the Ravens here. 67% of tickets, 72% of the cash on the Ravens, though. And this total is way low now, down from 46 to 40.5. 63% of tickets on the over, 78% of cash on the over. This is an overreaction game, okay, for both, I think, the total and the line here. And it's overreacting because Lamar Jackson is hurt. Lamar Jackson got hurt in the Ravens game against the Chiefs. He's not playing in this game. So it's going to be Cooper Rush for the Ravens. So what do I always talk about? The injured player theory spot. And if this line was going to be Ravens 9.5 and now the Texans are -1, you're telling me that the drop-off, I know Lamar Jackson's the MVP, like he's an MVP. I know this. But you're telling me that it's a drop-off, even with him, to Cooper Rush. I know Rush isn't really that good, but it's a drop-off so great that it's going to shift the line by 10.5 points. It actually shifted it, I think, 12 points before we saw the line move a little bit back down towards the Ravens. That is an insane line move, man. And you know I talk about this injured player spot. And you know that first game without your star player, the team steps up their game, man. The team shows up focused for that game. And you're talking about a team that I thought was going to win the Super Bowl. The Ravens were the team that the power ratings guys had rated as the best team in the NFL, and they're off to a 1-3 start. So the Ravens, they cannot afford to lack focus in this game, man, because they fall to 1-4. Their playoff chances are actually in jeopardy. Right now, I don't think they are. Like I said, I still think the Ravens are going to win their division. They're 2 games back of Pittsburgh right now, but we know the Ravens are the better team here, man. So I still think Baltimore is going to win this division. They've had a really difficult schedule so far. I know they lost every one of their games that were kind of like toss-up type of games against Buffalo. They should have won the game against Buffalo. They had a 40-25 lead late in that game. They played well in that game. They did beat Cleveland, although kind of misleadingly in a blowout because Cleveland had a lot of turnovers in the game and whatever. They lost to Detroit at home in a Monday night game against a good Detroit team. And Kansas City last week. Kansas City also still a good team, man. We know this. So Baltimore's 3 losses are to some of the best teams in the NFL still. Buffalo, Detroit, Kansas City, 2 of the 3 of them on the road. So it's been a really, really difficult schedule for Baltimore so far. They faced one of the most, if not the most difficult schedules so far. So it's actually, they're stepping down in class to face Houston here, man, because the last time they faced a team that was anywhere as weak as Houston is was Cleveland. Houston, I mean, I think they're better than they look to. I know they're only 1-3 right now, but this is like, you got to win this game if you're Baltimore, and you know they're going to show up because Lamar Jackson's hurt. That first game out, they're going to show up. I think you're getting value on Baltimore. It's basically, you're getting them as a home underdog in this game, man. When are you going to get the Ravens as a home underdog ever? And Nate likes Cooper Rush. I mean, he's a ginger, right? So I don't know, but Cooper Rush, he's got a lot of experience. He was on Dallas last year, and he played like half the season last year for Dallas because Dak Prescott was hurt. So Cooper Rush, he's no stranger to starting in the NFL. So the pressure like isn't going to get to him or anything like that, right? So, and I think he actually faced Houston last year in one of those Dallas games, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, which I think was a game I got wrong on the show. I think I had Dallas and Houston wound up winning the game. You can correct me if I'm wrong about that, but yeah, I mean, you have a quarterback who's at least still experienced. You got a Baltimore team that's well coached. Houston is coming off their first win, so I don't think Houston's really in a bad spot. I mean, they were 0-3, so they had to get a win, man, and they lost all 3 of those games really close. They got a win finally, which was good because I had them in Survivor as well. They shut out Tennessee 26-0. It was not a misleading result. Tennessee had fewer than 200 yards of offense. That Tennessee team with Cam Ward, man, it is not looking good right now for that team. But Houston got the win. And again, I talk about sometimes when you get your first win, it helps carry that momentum forward because you get that like monkey off your back. And you know Houston, they're going to be focused for Baltimore too. So I think both teams are going to show up focused though. So then it becomes a matter of, I think the Ravens are still the better team, man. But the odds makers are telling you that without Lamar Jackson, the Texans are such the better team that they're a favorite on the road. I don't buy it. I would take the Ravens in this game, and I would also lean to the over as well because I think the total completely overreacted as well to Lamar Jackson being out, and you do see the money coming back in on the over now too. I know the Texans have been pretty much an under team because they're a defensive team and their offense has a lot of missing pieces, but they can run the ball now, man. It looks like Woody Marks might be the dude. Hopefully he is because I have him in fantasy, man. I picked him up before last week's outburst because I saw like his playing time was really escalating. I was like, let's go, man. Let's go. Let's get a Woody on our fantasy team here. And it was good timing because I lost James Conner and I haven't been able to trade for a running back. So I'm like, let's go, man. Let's hope Woody is the dude. But that means the Texans are going to be able to run the ball a bit more here. But I think that can open up things for the passing game. So I think you'll see a more balanced offense, at least from the Texans. And the Ravens' defense has not been good. Everybody talks about, the Ravens like still has this vision, they're a good defensive team. That has not been the case this year, man. So the Ravens, you could see some points get scored in this game, man. The Texans might be able to score. I think the Ravens certainly could score, even though I know the Texans defense will try to slow them down. But I think the over makes sense in the game. But again, I think Baltimore is probably the way to look just because I still think they're the better team and this is like an absolute game. They have to have this game, and it's the injured player spot on top of it where you're going to get a focused Baltimore team. I know you could argue they're coming off a big emotional high type of game where they lost the game to Kansas City, but it was an embarrassing loss to Kansas City, 37-20, so I don't think it's going to be any sort of like emotional letdown here. You're talking about a 1-3 team that thinks that they should be a Super Bowl contender, which they don't just think that. It's true. So it's got to be Baltimore if you're going to play that game. Cooper Rush is 9-5 as a starter. Thanks, Nate. 2 of those losses were to the Eagles. Thank you for the info, which I assume those were both when he was on Dallas. Cooper Rush, he's not that bad, and he's got a lot of talent to work with on that offense, man. You got some pretty talented receivers there. You got friggin' Derrick Henry there, man. So let's go, Charles. That's true. Howdy, partner. Yeah. For the Dallas Cowboys, I guess. I don't know. Let's go to the 4 p.m. slate. Down. We have, oh my God, another one of the ugliest games on the board here. Although one of the other ugly games, Giants New Orleans is going to be one of my plays. But Miami Carolina and then this game, Tennessee Arizona. These are just hideous games, man. Tennessee 0-4. They look like they're the worst team in the NFL right now. It has not been good for them. They're getting Spears back, Ty Spears, to help bolster their rushing attack. I don't know how helpful that's going to be, but he is coming back, so that is something that will help with the with the Titans rushing attack here. Titans are coming off getting shut out though, man, and we just saw a shutout, which is rare in the NFL now, but we saw Atlanta get shut out by Carolina, and I gave out Carolina in that game. And what did I do last week? I gave out Atlanta. Because I think you do tend to want to look towards teams that got shut out, even though it doesn't happen like ever anymore. But it's just so embarrassing when you get shut out, man. Atlanta bounced back nicely with a nice focused effort last week. I think Tennessee is going to at least try to show a focus here, man, after the most embarrassing loss of the season, even though I know some of their other losses haven't been great. But you get shut out by an 0-3 Houston team, that is just ugly, man. That is so ugly that the coach is going to be drilling them coming into this week. I know it's a second straight road game. I know it's an unfamiliar venue, though, going to Arizona. So you do have to worry about that. Arizona is not traveling, and they have extra time off because they played on Thursday. But they played some tough games, man. They played San Francisco and Seattle in those last 2 games, including the Seattle game being a primetime game. And those were both close divisional games, man. So Arizona, not really exactly in a great spot, even though I know they lost that game on Thursday. And you would think with the extra time off, maybe they'll have extra prep time, figure something out here. But is Tennessee really the team that's going to draw your focus here? I don't know, man. I think that loss to Seattle could linger there, man. Those back-to-back losses, they could have potentially won both games against San Francisco and Seattle. And Arizona actually had to mount a comeback in that game, too, so they put in a lot of effort there. They were losing to Seattle 20-6, I think, in the fourth quarter, and then they tied it, and I believe sent it into overtime as well. So that game, it didn't go into overtime, excuse me. The Seahawks won with a late field goal in regulation, my mistake. But still, very, very dramatic loss in divisional game. So I don't love Arizona here. So I think the spot is a little bit better for the Titans. Cardinals are certainly a look if you want to look at them in Survivor. I already used them in week 2, though, against Carolina. So, I don't know. Cardinals down from 8 to 7.5, 86% of tickets, 93% of the cash. They're very, very public, though. So, and you're still getting the key number above 7, above the key number. They're above 7. So, I would lean to the Titans in that game. Oh, yes, Woody. That's right. I'm such an idiot. Yeah, Toy Story. I've seen all the Toy Stories, man. I should have gotten that. Yeah. Howdy, partner. Is that one of his actual sayings, or was it? Maybe it is. I don't know. I forget exactly what his sayings are verbatim. Also, Tom Hanks, Epstein flight logs. He is the voice of Woody, and I think he was getting some inappropriate Woodies. All right, Tampa Bay at Seattle. This is one that almost became a play for me. I was close to giving out a play on this game. I think Tampa Bay is not exactly in a good spot here, man. Let's just put it that way. They took their first loss of the season, and all 3 of their wins so far were last-minute wins. Remember, I talked about that. Tampa Bay was losing in the final minute of all of their wins. They're the first team to ever do that in the first 3 games of the season. So Tampa Bay might not be quite as good as they seem right now at 3-1. And they had a big game against the Super Bowl champs last week against Philly, and they mounted a comeback and almost were able to come back and win that game, man. So Tampa coming off that big game, and now they have to travel from Tampa all the way up to Seattle. I know it's not one of those late primetime games where it's going to be late on their biological clock, but that's still a long distance. You got to travel cross country after playing that big game against Philly, man. And Seattle, even though I know they're 3-1, I don't know the teams are totally taking Seattle seriously yet. So I think it is a bit of a hangover spot for Tampa because it's their first loss that they're coming off of, and also because it was a big game against Philly, and they put in a full effort in that one. Tampa Bay they do have Chris Godwin back. I think he played last week too. He's on my fantasy team, but I think they are going to unchain him in this game. But I'm going to lean to Seattle here, even though I'm not a Sam Darnold fan. I still don't think he's good. Seattle is down 3 defensive starters, it looks like, so you got to worry about that. They're going to be without Love, Witherspoon. Without Love, man. Only hate from Seattle. Love, Witherspoon, and Lawrence are all hurt, which is not great, really. They're going to be starting a rookie safety there, I guess. Although I guess he's coming back from injury, so whatever. But Seattle, a little banged up on defense right now. Their defense has played pretty well so far this season. Kind of a defensive-oriented team. Again, I still don't really trust Sam Darnold, though, but Seattle, I do think they're in the better spot. They do have extra time off, but they are coming off a big divisional win in prime time. Like I said, it was that game against Arizona. Dramatic finish for Seattle, and yes, they have extra time off, but that extra time off when you're on a winning streak like this might not be the greatest thing. It's kind of like a bye where when you go into it on a good note, you don't really have anything to fix. So I don't know, man. But their travel is less here. Tampa Bay's spot, I think, is still a little bit worse. I don't think either team is in a particularly good spot. And again, that was a divisional win for Seattle there, although I don't think they're going to overlook Tampa because Tampa is a team that continuously makes the playoffs. So I think Seattle is the team that could be more easily overlooked here. And the money is coming in on the Seahawks. It was 2, which I think was the look at. I don't think it was ever 2 after last week's games. I think it's been 3.5 all week, pretty much, for the Seahawks. It's headed towards 4. It's still 3.5 at some spots, I think. I would lean that way. I mean, it almost looks crazy to be laying points like that. You get the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, man, the 3-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers right now who make the playoffs every year. Basically, you're getting them as an underdog. It kind of looks tempting to play Tampa. The public's still not sold on the Seahawks. I'm also not, like I said, but I still think this is a better spot for the Seahawks. There is a chance the Seahawks are 4-1 to start the season, which I never would have expected. 60% of tickets on the Buccaneers, 51% of the cash coming in on the Seahawks. But of course, the Seahawks, I mean, their schedule hasn't been terribly difficult yet. Probably the best team they faced was the 49ers, and Pittsburgh, I think, is overperforming, and they beat them, dealt them their only loss so far. Then they beat New Orleans, whatever, and then Arizona, I think, is just, they're Arizona, man. I mean, they're just going to continue to be Arizona and not pretty much underperform every year. So Seattle hasn't had a terribly difficult schedule yet, and Tampa's has been a little bit more difficult than that. But to me, I mean, I think the spot is better for Seattle. It looks like, or it's less bad for Seattle, I should say, and the cash is coming in on them. So that's where I would go in that game. The Yankee Cowboy, Tom Yanksy, which is a river in China, I believe. China. Pereira just KO'd. Who's Pereira up against? I forget what the what was the main card, the main event. I can't remember what the fight was tonight. I don't pay enough attention to the fights, man. I don't even know who the favorite was, but if it was a knockout in the first round, then it seems like you might not necessarily have gotten your money's worth, though, unless you actually won money on it. Oh, Ankalaev, yeah, one of those Dagestani dudes. Is that who he is? I usually go with those guys because they can take it to the ground and start wrestling. So I usually go with those guys. I don't know what the odds were. I don't know who the public side was in that fight, though. So I don't know. I didn't have any opinion on it. Detroit at Cincinnati. I mean, this Cincinnati team, man, they just have not been able to do it with Jake Browning. I know he looked good in that first game, not the first game, but the game where Joe Burrow got hurt. Jake Browning filled in, and they somehow won the game, even though they were losing the game against Jacksonville. Browning somehow mounted a comeback in that game and a win, and then since then, he's just been absolutely horrendous. He was terrible in the injured player theory spot against Minnesota, up against Minnesota's injured player theory spot with Wentz, but I told you Minnesota was the right side in that game because I thought the coaching is just way better for Minnesota. I thought Wentz was better than Browning, so I thought Minnesota would adapt to that spot way better. It happened. And then Cincinnati did not redeem themselves, although it was a second straight road game. They played 3 road games in 4 weeks so far, so not really an easy schedule so far for Cincinnati. Everybody did see them get blown out by Denver on Monday night, so it is a short week for Cincinnati. I know, by the way, it does mean it's a short week for Denver, too, which I forgot to explicitly mention that. So Denver, yeah, they are on a short week having to travel to Philadelphia, so I don't love Denver enough to give them out as a play here. But back to Cincinnati here. Everybody saw them look terrible, and sometimes you do want to be on a team when they look terrible. But it was not a misleading score. Like I said, Cincinnati their offense was terrible in that game. Not a misleading score at all. They got outperformed in the game, big time. But at some point, I mean, Cincinnati cannot possibly be as bad as they've looked those last couple of games. Though a team is never as bad as they look in their worst games, so you got to think that at some point there is value on Cincinnati, and maybe it's going to be here as like a 10-point home underdog against Detroit. And I talked about Detroit last week. They blew out Cleveland. I mean, no real surprise there, but it was closer on the stat sheet than the score actually looked like. I pointed out Detroit only outgained Cleveland by like fewer than 30 yards in the game. So statistically, it was still kind of close. Cleveland's defense did kind of hold them in check. Detroit might not be totally focused here, man. I mean, it was an easy win, and they do have to turn around, and they have a primetime game against Kansas City next week, man, a Sunday night game against Cleveland next week. So that is a big game for Detroit. So it is possible they kind of just look past the Cincinnati team that's looked so bad here. So I wouldn't want to lay it with Detroit. Let's just put it that way. If you forced me to have to play this game, I would take the points with the Bengals, but man, it's ugly. Man, the Bengals have been bad. 93% of tickets, 92% of the cash on the Lions. So the Lions are incredibly public in this game. And the line has gone all the way up from 7.5, which I think was the look ahead, up to 10.5. I think there's no reason for the line to have moved in that extreme a fashion. You're getting double digits in the NFL at home. I mean, that used to be kind of the old adage where like a double-digit underdog in any capacity in the NFL, you almost wanted to just like blindly look that way. That's not the case anymore, but I still think in a spot like this where the Lions are so public, they might just look right past Cincinnati, how bad they've been playing. It's at home. You're getting over 10 points now. Yeah, it would be Bengals or pass for me in that game, as horrendous as that sounds. So you know me, I love ugly underdogs. And it is still the case where there is a trend in the NFL in the first 6-7 weeks of the season, something like that. Home underdogs cover at a really nice rate, like above 60%, I think. So that is another thing to consider there. But it is just ugly. Cincinnati's going to have to do something on offense to make that worth it. You won on Pereira. There you go, Charles. I'm going to look into it afterwards and see who the public side was and what were the odds that you got on that, Charles. It's better for the UFC for Pereira to win. I don't know. You don't like the ground and pound. I like it from a betting perspective. I like it because the grinders, the the grapplers are always undervalued, man. So I like it from a betting perspective. And yeah, the public like never wants them. So they're usually the undervalued commodity. Washington and the Chargers, kind of a weird matchup here, man. The Chargers, of course, they're coming off their first loss, and I talk about how that can hang you over, but in this case, I don't think so. We talked about this last week. I gave out the Giants as a play last week. It was a terrible spot for the Chargers. They'd won 3 straight divisional games, including 2 primetime games, one in Brazil against Kansas City and then at Vegas, and then they beat Denver in a comeback, a huge game as well. So it was just a bad spot for the Chargers, having to go out to the East Coast for the first time this year, face a Giants team that they didn't know what the Giants were going to do on offense. And Jackson Dart, I know he wasn't really good. Well, maybe I should I'll talk about that when we talk about the Giants. How about that? But they didn't put up a lot of offensive yardage. Let's just put it that way. The Giants didn't. So I know they won on the scoreboard. I still think we had the right side there, but the Chargers did outgain them by fairly close to 100 yards, man. The Chargers were kind of lackluster, though. They were sloppy. They were -2 in turnovers. They had a ton of penalties, and that definitely affected the outcome of the game. But part of the handicap is the focus aspect of it, man. So when a team's not focused, it does kind of lend itself to turnovers and penalties. So that's what happened with the Chargers. But back at home, I think that was kind of an embarrassing loss. I do think the Chargers will show up with more focus in this particular game. I know they're beat up, though. They got some offensive line injuries, especially Joe Alt, who might be back next week. I think he's their basically their Pro Bowl, I think, center at this point, who's still really young, but he's hurt. So, yes, that is a blow to the Chargers offensive line. They have one other offensive lineman hurt as well. Underdog, the cartoon was good too. You got plus 210. That kind of makes me think that the public was all over that side, man. I probably would have gone the other way on that one because the public loves underdogs, man. They probably especially love Pereira as an underdog up against a Dagestani dude. So, yeah, I mean, I think the Dagestani dude was Ankalaev, whatever. He was probably favored significantly for a reason. So it kind of surprises me that he lost, actually. I would have probably been on Ankalaev if I was forced to play that. But anyway, back to the Chargers here. I think it's a decent bounce back spot because they were better than the scoreboard looked last week. It was an embarrassing loss to lose to the Giants. Now they have a more predictable opponent here against Washington. Washington, I know they lost last week. We had Atlanta on the show last week, too. We're killing it in the NFL over the last couple of weeks with the plays. I thought it was a good bounce back spot for Atlanta after getting shut out. I didn't like the spot for Washington because, remember, they had lost Jaden Daniels against Green Bay, I believe. And the first game without him was the injured player spot, and Marcus Mariota started, and they did well against the Raiders. And I told you I liked Washington in that game. Didn't give it out as a play, but I was correct. And then after that, I talk about it, the injured player spot, the second game with that backup quarterback. It's like sometimes they breathe a sigh of relief. They were up against an ultra-focused Atlanta team, so it was a good spot to fade Washington, a good spot to play Atlanta. We got it done with Atlanta in that one. But now what's happening? Jaden Daniels is coming back, man. If you look at the depth chart, I'm pretty sure he is starting here. He's not even on the injury report at this point, it looks like. They are going to be without 2 wide receivers, though. McLaurin, who was their best wide receiver, and Noah Brown are both out. So their wide receiving targets are a little bit limited in this one. But Jaden Daniels is coming back. And what do I always say, man? The reverse injured player spot is going to come into play here, where now the line's going to have to shift to accommodate for the fact that Daniels is coming back. And it could be a little bit of a chemistry issue. The team has to get back up to speed with him back out there. They have to get used to him being back out there. He has to get used to playing again. And the team can kind of like take a little bit of a step back, like, hey, our star is back. So all of those aspects come into play. So usually you want to look to fade the team when that star player comes back. And I do think that is the case with this game. I think the spot is better for the Chargers for that reason. It is one of those road out-of-conference games. It is a third road game in 4 weeks for Washington, so that's also not easy to do. They had to go to Green Bay. They were at Atlanta last week, and now they're going cross-country to the Pacific Coast for the first time this year to an AFC opponent, venue that they're not that familiar with. That I don't think Daniels has ever played there. I know it's a roof stadium, so it's not like the weather is going to impact them, but it is still a travel spot that they're not really that familiar with. So all that coming into play here. Chargers would be the way I would lean in this game. They're up from 2.5 to 3. 73% of tickets, 78% of cash on them. So they're a little bit public on the Chargers, which actually surprises me. You'd think that the public would be on Washington here. So that's a little bit strange to me. Public was on the Chargers last week, and I thought it would be one of those public flip-flop games where, oh my God, the Chargers lost to the Giants. We can't lay points with them now. And Jaden Daniels is coming back, so I thought the public would be on Washington. I'm surprised they're not, but it still looks like more of the money is coming in on the Chargers side here. So I would lean that way for all the reasons I just said. And then we got Sunday night. You thought it would be a snooze fest? Yeah, well, that's what I would have expected with the grappler getting it to the ground there, but apparently that didn't happen. The Sunday night game, actually maybe not as bad as it looks. New England being involved in it, but New England starting to maybe play a little bit better with Drake May. He did look pretty good last week. I know it was against a bad Carolina defense. Buffalo's defense isn't great, but it's better than Carolina's. This is New England at Buffalo. Buffalo is tough at home, but it seems like New England does usually step it up and play fairly well against Buffalo. Although maybe in the recent years, Buffalo just kind of took New England for granted, and maybe they won't as much in this game. It's a divisional matchup. It is a Sunday night game, so that might give Buffalo a little bit more focus because it is a primetime game. So there are some reasons why Buffalo might show up focus here. I mean, people are kind of saying this could be the new AFC East rivalry. New England might be the next team that's going to threaten Buffalo's dominance in the division over the last several years. Maybe. That is true. But I pointed it out, man. New England, I know they blew out Carolina on the scoreboard, looked really good. I gave out New England as a play last week. But again, I'll point it out again. The stats kind of told a different story. New England got outgained in the game. I know Drake May had a really, really good QBR, quarterback rating in the game, whatever. But he was only 14 for 17. He didn't throw the ball a whole lot. So, I mean, I don't know what you could really take away from that. They weren't airing it out a ton in the game, and their rushing attack really didn't do that much. New England's rushing attack, even though Trayvon Henderson looked like he was going to be pretty good, they have some decent runners on that team, rushers on that team. The New England rushing attack hasn't been that good, man. So, I think New England looked better than they were last week. Buffalo just kind of had a game where I think they just didn't really show up because it was a home game against New Orleans. They're playing a third straight home game here. So, it's not really a bad spot for Buffalo. They had a game where they haven't covered in their last two games against Miami and New Orleans. So I think they just kind of were going through the motions there. So I think Buffalo might actually show up for once because they didn't play particularly well against New Orleans. And that game was a little bit close late in the game. So I don't think it's a terrible spot for Buffalo in this case. So I do actually slightly lean to Buffalo in this game. They're down from 10 to 9. It was down to 8. But the books, I think, are trying to kill the teasers, man. We talk about the teasers. The Stanford Wong teaser, which means you go through the key numbers of 7 and 3, and it's a 2-team 6-point teaser. That's the only teaser that has an edge in the NFL, but the books know it, and where they used to charge you minus 120 for that, they now charge you at least minus 125 for it, and if it's up to minus 130, there's no value left to be had on those teasers. So I'm not a teasers guy, but if you can still find it at minus 125 or better, it still makes sense to tease. And I do think the Bills would be a decent teaser candidate if you saw them at 8.5 out there, because then you could get them down below the 3. If you can get them down to 2.5, I think the Bills are a decent teaser candidate, and I do slightly lean to them to cover the spread here. 85% of tickets, 88% of the cash on them. Of course, the Bills are going to be public, but in this case, I'm not sure that the public is actually wrong. So I would slightly lean to the Bills there. And remember, one of the games the Patriots played well against the Bills was the last time they played last year. But remember, that was the last week of the season. And the Bills, I think they only played Josh Allen right at the beginning of the game just to continue his consecutive start streak. And then they took him out. So the Bills, they already had wrapped up whatever seed they were in the playoffs. So they pretty much played all backups up against, I believe, the Patriots starters. That's part of the reason why I think the Patriots actually won that game. But that's part of the reason why they did. So I wouldn't put much weight into that game. But the Patriots, yes, they have played Buffalo tough generally over the last few times they played them. But in this case, yeah, I'm not so sure. I think I would slightly lean to Buffalo. Definitely don't want to put money on that game, though, unless you're getting Buffalo in the teaser down to minus 2.5. And then I think in that case, you could probably tease it with like maybe teasing the Jets up above the touchdown, or I don't know, they're probably maybe Baltimore, getting them teased up above a touchdown. That seems like a decent way to look to tease Baltimore up, because Houston can't fucking score. So you really think Baltimore's going to lose at home by more than a touchdown? I highly doubt it. So I think Baltimore, very decent teaser candidate as well. Yeah, so those are probably the couple of potential teaser candidates that I would look for there. Really, just those couple, just those few, actually, the ones that make sense. All right, and then Monday night we have Kansas City and Jacksonville, and I don't know if I'm going to give out a play on this or not, but I think it is a letdown spot for the Chiefs. I mean, we just saw what they did last week. They blew out Baltimore last week. Huge game against the Ravens. Everybody was basically kind of shitting on Kansas City because they're a 1-3 start, or 1-2 start, excuse me. Almost had a 1-3 start potentially if they lost this game. Maybe if Lamar Jackson didn't get injured, maybe it would have been different. But the Chiefs were playing really well in that game. They had a nice game plan against Baltimore. Baltimore just can't seem to get over the hump against the Chiefs, man. The Chiefs seem to have their number anyway. Big win for the Chiefs. And now coming off of that, they played Jacksonville on the road, which is kind of a weird spot. They don't usually go to Jacksonville. I know it's a Monday night game, but I think a Monday night game hosted by Jacksonville doesn't get to do that as often. So I think Jacksonville is going to be pumped for that game more than Kansas City is, because Kansas City's coming off that much bigger win against Baltimore. And up next, they have another primetime game against Detroit, like I said, next Sunday night. So it is kind of a sandwich spot for the Chiefs here. So going on the road only for the second time this year. And their offense was pretty lackluster against the Giants the first time they went on the road. I know they covered, but it's because Russell Wilson can't hit the broadside of a barn. This is a difficult spot, man. Jacksonville, even though they're 3-1, I do think they're a bit under the radar. They're 2-0 at home, and I know their wins were only against Carolina, they're just not very good, obviously. And Houston had a chance to beat them in that game, but Jacksonville was able to get it done. I know Jacksonville did have to go out to the Pacific Coast last week. Brock Purdy, I didn't expect him to play in the game, but he did. So it became a reverse injured player spot for San Francisco. And I talk about that when your starting quarterback comes back. Sometimes the team takes a step back and they have a little bit of a setback. So I did lean to Jacksonville in that game anyway last week, and they did get it done, and they actually won outright in the game. Pretty big win against San Francisco, but there's no way that Jacksonville's not going to be focused here, man. When they're hosting a Monday night game against the Kansas City Chiefs, that's a big deal for Jacksonville, man. Jacksonville's been irrelevant the last couple of years. This is their chance to prove relevance again. Huge game for Jacksonville. So I'm going to lean to Jacksonville in this one, and it might wind up being a play, but I will not give it out yet, but I may very well do so on Monday. I think you'll still be able to get the 3.5 on Monday because the public is going to come in on the Chiefs. 75% of tickets on them, 79% of the cash. Money on the side of the Chiefs for now, but it might flip. So the ticket percentage obviously is on the Chiefs. They're public, but cash percentage is on them for now, but it might not stay that way. The total isn't exactly low, but it's in the mid-40s. So, and we know the Chiefs, they still have more of a defensive style. I think their offense looked a little bit better than they actually are last week because the Ravens' defense really is just, they're not good right now. And Lamar Jackson going down in that game kind of threw the game off a little bit. So that win maybe looked better than it actually was for the Chiefs. Jacksonville, they've been decent on both sides of the ball, man. They've been a decently balanced team here, man. So I think Jacksonville can get it done. So that's the lean. Might wind up giving out a play on it. That was the breakdown, which I always forget to put the graphic up there, as I always say. Let's go to the best bets, baby. Whoops. Best bets. Only have 2 of them for tomorrow, and you're going to hate them both. You know exactly what they are already. Let's do it, man. They're the best bets. These are definitely best. New Orleans Saints, -1.5. And I'm actually considering using them in Survivor because there's no other week where you're going to want to use the Saints. I don't know, man. How risky do I want to get in Survivor? I'm in the Survivor pool that I'm in, one of the ones, like the one for bigger money is huge. So I don't know, man. I didn't use the Rams, so if I don't use the Saints, it's got to be like Vikings, which seems kind of iffy. By the way, I forgot to mention Vikings-Browns. I think an under might be a way to look in that game because both defenses are good. Let me just look at that game real quick. I forgot to talk about the total in that game, but I did kind of have a thought about the under. The money is coming in on the under, but man, that total is unbelievably low now. It dropped from 39 to 35.5, so it is dicey if you want to go under. And that is such a low total for an NFL game. It's ridiculous. 54% of tickets on the over, 51% of the cash on the under. So the money's still coming in on the under. If you want to take a risk on it, when teams have to travel like that, it does kind of affect the offense more than the defense. I think the offense kind of comes in a little bit cold potentially. And you got two teams that are much better defensively than offensively. And you got two sort of backup quarterbacks in there too. So I do think it's going to be an ugly, ugly game. So just a thought on that one. But let's go to New Orleans here. You never hate the best bets. Well, thank you, Charles. Hopefully they continue to come in. I mean, I know how many of these are ugly, but the last couple of weeks, again, we're 6-1 over the last 2 weeks in the NFL. With the only loss, that Colts game should have been a winner too. So New Orleans -1.5, man. New Orleans is favored. They're favored for a reason, man. And this is one of those spots where it's like a public flip-flop. The Saints are already up from a pick 'em to 2 now, by the way. You could probably still lay the 2 here. You might still be able to lay the 1.5. If you want to go money line, if you get a better price on the money line, I think that's okay too. Basically, it's still a pick the winner. I mean, as long as you get below 3, I think it's a decent play on the Saints here, or a good play, I will say. This is one of those public flip-flop games, man, where we had the Giants last week, remember, and the public was all over the Chargers last week. So the Giants were this anti-public team last week, and now they won one game, and all of a sudden the public is totally on the Giants. That's kind of a red flag, man, when the public completely flips sides like that. Again, no team is ever as good as they look in their best game. No team is ever as bad as they look in their worst game. It was a bad spot for the Chargers. That's why we're on the Giants last week. We'll talk about it now. The Giants, they still got outgained by the Chargers in that game last week. Where is this game? And this game's, both of my plays are in the 1 p.m. slate, so we'll get both these games done early on. But yeah, if we look at what happened in this game, the Chargers were just sloppy. Again, they had a lot of penalties, -2 in turnovers. They did outgain the Giants. Jackson Dart is actually somewhat hurt right now, too. He's going to play, but he has like a hamstring issue. So Jackson Dart, maybe not 100%. He didn't light it up last week. I know the Chargers do play pretty good defense, but the Giants, Dart was capable in the game. He didn't make any mistakes. He played fine. He did some stuff with his feet, which was really the one really good thing that he did, is he had 54 yards on the ground and a rushing touchdown. That's some pretty good stuff from Dart. So Dart did add that other dimension for them, so that is good. It was his first game in the regular season, so I do think he will be better. I'm on record saying I think he's the best quarterback of this draft class, and I think he will actually be something. He was fine in the game, but I do think he might take a little bit of a step back here after that emotional high of playing your first game. You celebrate a bit, you know. Now you go on the road to an unfamiliar venue, playing in the Superdome against New Orleans, and New Orleans is a desperate team right now for a win. Giants did get the monkey off their back with that win, but having to go on the road, I don't like it. And what makes this way, way worse, not only is that it's a road it's a road in conference game, but it's still a road game against an 0-4 team. But what makes this really, really bad is they have to turn around and play on Thursday night against Philadelphia, man. A divisional opponent and the returning Super Bowl champs who are 4-0 right now. So that is a huge look-ahead spot. And sometimes the look-ahead spots don't matter that much, but a Thursday night game, so a quick turnaround time against the team that's leading your division and won the Super Bowl last year, that has definitely got to be a look-ahead spot, man. So I think this is a very bad spot for the Giants. I think it is basically a sandwich spot. The Giants, again, if we look at what they did last week, they were not impressive offensively, and their rushing defense was also not good, as they allowed Omarion Hampton. How do you pronounce this? Omarion Hampton. Omicron Hampton, whatever his name is. He basically ran all over them. He averaged like over 10 yards a carry in the game. That's pretty bad for the Giants defense there. I mean, even though the Giants are supposed to have a good front seven, I mean, I don't know what happened in that game, but the Giants weren't able to move the ball very effectively on the ground game with Scatterbo there. I mean, I know people like Scatterbo, but he was very inefficient. He had 25 carries for only 79 yards. That's not a good sign, man. Yes, the Giants were able to possess the ball and slow down the game, but it's going to be difficult. And Malik Neighbors is also injured now. I think he's out for the season, so their best wide receiver is now done for the season as well, so that's also bad. So Giants, a lot going on to kind of dislike here in this game, man. In New Orleans, they've been in most of these games, man, and they were pretty close in the game against Arizona, against San Francisco. The final against Seattle, I think, was a bit misleading. The statistics were a lot closer than the final score was. And then last week, they were hanging in that game against Buffalo. I think it's going to be good for them to return home. They get a home game. They're desperate for a win, and they get a winnable game here against the Giants. Yeah, I think it is a spot to play New Orleans here, man. So that's what we're going to do in this one. Again, the public is on the Giants, 71% of tickets, 80% of the cash on them for now. But I think they're an anti-public side. I think the money is actually coming in on the Saints. And I think the numbers will bear that out. So we're going to lay the points with the Saints. I would lay anything below 3 probably, or look to maybe find a decent money line price. I saw it at about minus 120 out there on the money line, which I don't think is a bad move either in that game. But I saw 1.5s and 2s out there because there's not a huge difference between those two. So that's the play in that one. Omicron per se 8 Hampton. That's a star system, probably something like that. And then you know what I'm going to do, man. The final play here is the Jets plus 1.5. I think it might have been 2.5 at some point, but 1.5, 2.5, not much of a difference. I think the Jets finally get a win. So this is how great these two best bets are, man. How about 2 0-4 teams where you're playing a line where you pretty much need them to win the game outright? Isn't that awesome? 0-4 and 0-4, and you need them to win the game. How about that? We're going to get both of them. Let's do it, man. They're both going to get their first win here. This is against the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys are up from a pick 'em to a 1.5. I think the pick 'em might have been the look-ahead line. I don't know. 66% of tickets and 66% of the cash, which really means you should fade the Cowboys here because 6-6-6-6, that's just evil, man. Only a satanic person would bet the Cowboys in this one. I think this is a terrible spot for the Cowboys, man. We saw what they did last week. They're coming off a game where I leaned to them to cover the spread last week, and they did against Green Bay. That was a huge game. It was the Micah Parsons Bowl. It was Sunday night, prime time, and it was a crazy, crazy game that went into overtime and wound up in a tie, 40-40. That is an insane game, man. I think it's going to result in a hangover effect for the Cowboys, man. That was such a crazy game. Here you have Dobbs there with this stupid concussion helmet there. He just looks ridiculous. I hate that fucking thing. It's so fucking ugly, man. He had a huge game in that game against the Cowboys, though. And the Cowboys still were able to put up 40 points in that game and have a tied game in that game. But I think it's a huge hangover spot or letdown spot or whatever you want to call it, having to travel to the East Coast in an out-of-conference game against the Jets, which is going to be a game that really doesn't matter as far as Dallas' schedule is concerned. And the Jets really hungry for a win because they're 0-4. And as I pointed out, 2 of these games, they actually outgained their opponent. They outgained Pittsburgh in the first game, and I had the Jets in the game. So, yes, I'm going to have the Jets as a play 4 times in 5 weeks, I think. I had them against Pittsburgh, Buffalo, Tampa Bay, and we're going to have them again. And I leaned against them last week, and we're going to have them again here against Dallas. We got it correct against Pittsburgh. We were wrong against Buffalo. We were correct against Tampa Bay. I was correct in the Jets game and didn't give out a play going against them last week, but I was correct. So I've been correct in 3 of the 4 Jets games so far. We're 2-1 in the Jets bets so far, and we're going to do it again here, man. It feels like we're just always on the Jets on this show. Last week it didn't work out. Last year it didn't work out that well. This year it's 2-1 so far, so it's a little bit better. I think it is a much better spot for the Jets here. I know that they played Monday night, so they have a shorter week here, but they're at least staying on the East Coast here. They'll get up for a game with the Dallas Cowboys coming into their place, and they're 0-4, so you know they got to be focused here. They got to try to get something with Aaron Glenn here, man. And again, they outgained Pittsburgh in week 1. They covered the spread for us, and they blew the game. They should have won outright. So not only did they outgame Pittsburgh, they had a multiple score lead late in that game, double-digit lead, and they wound up blowing the entire thing and still hanging on for the cover. So they should have probably won that game. Against Buffalo, Justin Fields got hurt, which kind of threw the game off a little bit. And then Tyrod Taylor played decently well against Tampa Bay, and they had a nice comeback. They were able to cover the spread and actually wound up almost winning the game. They had the lead in the final minutes of that game and just fell short. So this Jets team, I think they're not quite as bad as their 0-4 record looks. The odds makers only line Miami as a 2.5 point favorite in the game at Miami last week. So kind of saying the Jets are basically on par with Miami. I think the Jets might be a little bit better than Miami, even though I thought the spot was better for Miami last week. Jets outgained Miami in the game, man. So again, the Jets are not quite as bad as they looked. They weren't as bad as they looked in that game. Yeah, we're going to go with the Jets here. Let's fucking do it. As far as their quarterback situation, Fields already came back. So again, that was part of the handicap last week that I gave out on the show. Part of the reason I lead to Miami was because Fields came back. So what do I talk about? Reverse injured player spot. So again, the Jets may have taken a little bit of a step back. It was kind of a hangover spot for that big effort game against Tampa. Fields coming back, had to work his way back in. So I thought that was kind of a bad spot. But now it's his second game back. So I think it's a much better spot for the Jets here. And Dallas, their pass defense might be the worst in all of football, man. So I know people think about this Jets team as not being able to score, but that hasn't really been the case. I mean, you can see here, I mean, they've put up at least 21, or no, they've put up at least 21 in at least 3 of the 4 games. They put up over 30 against Pittsburgh and put up 27 against Tampa Bay. So that's not too bad. But they can certainly score against this Dallas defense, man. This Dallas defense, they can't stop the pass. The Jets are a balanced offensive attack. They should be able to do something through the air. I mean, remember, this is a Dallas team that made a completely washed Russell Wilson look like a god, and they made Caleb Williams look really good too. So everybody's been able to throw against this Dallas defense. So I think Fields should be able to throw against them as well. Jets should be able to score, and I think they should be able to win this game, man. The Jets, I believe they also have the better defense still, as crazy as that might sound. Dallas's defense is just not good. So they got some problems, man. Yes, they can score, but remember, Dallas is also without CeeDee Lamb, so they are without their most talented offensive weapon. I know Pickens did really well last week, but you got to see what their offense looked like without CeeDee Lamb last week, and the Jets might be able to game plan for it. They still have a defensive-minded coach. I know it's his first season, and things are not going well so far, but the spot dictates the Jets, and that is what we're going to do here, man. Take the Jets as a small home underdog. You can take them on the money line, too, if you want to. So that's what we're going to do. It was a Futurama reference. I should have gotten that. I haven't watched that show in so long, man. I haven't watched any of the new stuff. Peter Thiel betting the Cowboys. Yeah, it's all big money for the Dallas Cowboys, man. Jerry Jones and whatever. Quit playing if you're that scared. What do you mean? Who are we talking about? Who's scared? What was that a reference to? I don't fucking know. But anyway, yeah. I think that's all I had to say, man. Those are the 2 plays that I have right now. I might wind up on Jacksonville on Monday night, but we will see. I felt like I was going to say one other thing, but now it slipped my mind. Oh, the Cowboys, by the way. I finished watching the Netflix Cowboys documentary. It is really entertaining. It's a good documentary. Very well made. Oh, Dobbs, the concussion helmet. Yeah, it's ridiculous. I don't even know what that is, man. And wide receivers, I know they get hit hard and like slants and stuff, but still, it's like, I don't know. It's stupid. It looks ridiculous. I don't know, man. He had a huge game last week, though. And fortunately, at least I was not up against him in fantasy or anything like that. So, yeah, it was a great documentary. I recommend it, even if you hate the Cowboys. I mean, they're pretty neutral, even though it was kind of like a, it was like the Cowboys kind of made this documentary, but it doesn't necessarily make anybody look like unnecessarily good or bad, right? Like they give you both the good and the bad, I thought, and everybody that was interviewed in it kind of did that as well. At some points, it made me sympathize with Jones a little bit, like especially, well, I don't know if I want to give it away. Everybody knows already, though. Like when he reunites with Jimmy Johnson at the end, like it kind of made me sympathize with Jones a little bit because, of course, early on, you're going to be sympathizing more with Jimmy Johnson. He got the short end of the stick, man. He was a better coach than he was given credit for sure. But it's crazy, like a bunch of the shit that went on that you like might not remember or might not know about. You get deep behind the scenes there, man. And all the like key players are like interviewed in the documentary and stuff, and the coaches and stuff. So, yeah, they humanize Jones in the game at least. And I mean, he is still. I mean, he's running the thing as like a, a family thing, or he's got his whole family around him. So I mean, there is that going on. He is still, a father, a family man. So there is that, even though he was a dick to Jimmy Johnson. And I think maybe he kind of gives like some of these head case players a little too much credit, but he actually gets them to play as well. So who knows, man. Sometimes he's too lenient on them, I will say that. But that's going to do it, man. The play is one more time for tomorrow. The Saints minus the 1.5 or -2 or whatever. Jets plus 1.5 or whatever the best you can get on it. I know how ugly that is, but that's what we do on the show, man. So those are the plays. Learn to Toad on Twitter. Learn to Toad on Instagram. Follow me there. Like, subscribe to the channel here. Let's boost this channel up. Let's get some more subscribers here, man, so we can start monetizing this shit. And then, we're on the audio platforms as well. If you give me a review on there, that helps me out too. Spotify, Apple, Covered in Uke on YouTube. That is my Uke channel, so we want to boost that thing as well. I'm doing some Halloween-themed Uke covers I got to get up on there. And patreon.com/learntotode if you want to give me some support. Basically just to support me. Get some bonus Uke content. I should find some more bonus content that I can throw out there. Although I don't know. I feel weird about paywalling any of the betting content, but maybe I'll find something to do there. But that's going to do it for now. Thanks for hanging out, guys. I appreciate it. I'll be back in the morning. We'll talk the baseball playoff games and the WNBA finals. And I know I said I would do a final market read today on the show for the college football games that I play on, which I didn't do. I forgot. I did look at it myself afterwards, and it all looked pretty much fine to me, except for maybe the Houston game, which was a loser, but whatever. I mean, you're not going to have winning weeks every single week, man. It's just the nature of the game. Got to bounce back from it. And hopefully we have a good NFL Sunday. We'd had winning days or non-losing days for a ton of days in a row, man. Probably for over a week span. I think the last time I had a losing day was long, long ago. So it was a nice run. And it wasn't a terrible day, at least. So let's keep it going. Good night to all of you. And yeah, we'll be back in the morning to talk about that stuff. And if I remember, I'll do the final market read for the NFL. That's going to do it for now. Peace.